Oh, thank you
Silence
very much,
emoji.
there, guys. I appreciate that. I'd like being the best British person on this broadcast.
Yeah,
Game 2 is upon us now. Flash versus Luxury. Flash going, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. 4 out of the 5 same picks from that first game locked in this time around. And I think the key one for me is Slater on this Kaiser.
You can see that. I know you asked in the first game whether or not this is something that Slater likes to go for, whether it's like a powerful pick. I think it's pretty obvious to you that it's Slater's preference.
Yeah.
Slater just likes to go back to this again and again. My biggest gripe with this composition, pretty much as an entirety right now, is actually Artie's Nautilus, and that's because the rest of these champions look roughly bluish or have some kind of blue in their character model on the left. Not Artie. Artie ruined the color scheme. It was the Braum that needed to be picked, obvious for very obvious reasons, but unfortunately they missed it. So yeah, I think it's a pretty easy luxury prediction here because of that fact.
Well, do you know what? That makes much more sense to me than most things that analysts say. So do you know what? I'm on board with it. Team Flash, there's a lack of coordination there, and Luxury are going to punish you for it.
Definitely. Well, we'll see if that's the case. You can see actually very quickly Killer Queen pathing towards the bottom side of the map. Hopefully he doesn't go back to like the level 2 ganking that could come about. Like
that was a weird one for me.
It was a weird one for me as well, although he is beelining to this bottom lane right now. It goes red Raptors immediately into making sure the level 3 and the Gromp and the blue, of course, are going to get taken. The potential is there just because they've got the push with the Jinx rockets at the beginning of the game to work with. So I don't know if they could get the lane to bounce. They have a possibility of a gank coming in from Killer Queen, but alternatively, it could just be Killer Queen walking into the opposing jungle looking for some action.
There's still plenty of options available for the Luxury jungler, and I think getting Vit to a good place, kind of a win condition, obviously, because despite the scoreline from the previous game not looking too amazing, the gameplay that we actually had when we were getting to these fights was pretty impressive. So I think given some resources, given a little bit more time and space to play AD carry, I think it's definitely somewhere that Luxury have a strength in this game.
It was really crazy because walking into the season, Luxury had come off of probably like their first split was really rough. Their second split, which was winter, obviously went a lot better for them. They were able to make playoffs, and they had this like spectacular run up against VCS, who ended up beating them in the third, fourth match to put them into fourth place basically. And they went out and they got themselves what looked like a just better outright support in CBL, who in the first week looked really good, and actually Luxury's bot lane looked like not just an improvement, but a strength for the team. They looked like the best portion of the team, and yet here we are. We're back to H3 in the bottom side. Vit isn't like Vit's still good, but he's not carrying the way he was in the first week or so when the team had that same option to come around to. So it's a little strange to me why they've decided to make some of the bot lane decisions. I'm hoping they can kind of salvage whatever it is that they're attempting to go for here, because again, Vit and CBL, when they were around, they looked incredible, and Luxury was looking like a legitimate threat to contest for higher than what they had in the previous split.
Well, Rebel, we're 4 minutes into the game, and we've not had any kills just yet. So the VCS is slowing down as it stands. The pace of this series probably couldn't keep up with the breakneck start that it did have. And I think the Death touched a little bit on. Luxury have gone for a bit more scaling in terms of this Victor and in terms of this Jinx. So I think Killer Queen may need to be a little bit less active in the early game, more up towards a couple more of these counter ganks.
And I think this is a champion that you do that with. Xin Zhao is very powerful at the beginning of the game, but ultimately, tends to be that the pacing is a little bit slower for this champion than even like Lee Sin or Hecarim or any of the modern type champions. Now, once you get on to second clear, third clear, that's when the champion really starts to go crazy and start to actually have a lot of fun inside of games like this, where you can start ganking for lanes, you can start dueling against people. But oftentimes I see that it's not Xin Zhao's that are opting for like the level 3 ganks, even when they've got very powerful abilities, but instead they're opting for a little bit later, getting after the first back and things like that. The double longsword that carries here for Killer Queen, or the pickaxe when you've got the gold for it. That kind of back is usually when they're really starting to pick up the momentum.
Because Xin Zhao is a champion that can like flex in the early game, and even if you've got a small advantage over your opposing number, you can kind of 100-0 people sometimes, which is very, very fun. Blazes picking up that lost chapter, taking an early teleport back into the mid lane. His wave clear is going to be a hell of a lot better now.
I was actually really excited when the draft came about because I saw the Jace first pick, and my initial impression obviously is like, okay, they're picking the Jace into the Gwen. But if you didn't know, when Blazes first kind of entered the league, he was a big Lucian player and a big AD mid player, and so we were excited because the possibility was the Jace flex mid, and then you take the Jax top lane for Coded. But that didn't end up happening because Coded was like a Jax one trick, and he's an amazing Jax player, which is a known counter pick for the Gwen. But they don't opt for it. Instead, they just opt for the run back of the Victor mid for Blazes, which is another one of his kind of like big champions that he's outside of that AD pool. You can see, I know we're going into history a little bit more, but this is, of course, a little bit more lax of a game. For Luxury, they picked up their first dragon, which is always nice to see. Rift Herald was, or my apologies, dragon taken away from Killer Queen, who's not diving for turrets and not diving for members, but instead diving for objectives.
Oh, we've got Flash diving under
Ikigai.
towers instead as Coated. Missing with that accelerated shot blast, but able to just walk it out of there. Look at the summoner spell investment from Flash.
Yeah, they spent so much. The worst part of that also, the E from Ikigai was charged up pretty decently, but he hit the tower with it. He didn't hit Coded with it. I think it might have been intentional at the last minute to try not to draw tower aggro just so that he wouldn't end up going down if that was the possibility from him, or to shove him further underneath the tower. But yeah, it's a dive. They're attempting to put some pressure onto Coded, but the Jace lives with very little investment. Obviously, 2 summoner spells for the 3. Ends up being pretty positive, although there is no longer a flash, so a repeat gank is definitely in the cards potentially for Ikigai when the time comes.
Yeah, as we do see Nogo and Ikigai cheating towards that top side just slightly on the minimap there, as Killer Queen and Blazes will spot them out. Nogo kind of behind enemy lines here, but will be able to evacuate himself.
Kind of nice to see. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think I was alluding to a similar point that you were going. It's nice that these teams aren't just doing dumb stuff.
What I was about to say was it's nice to see Killer Queen and Blazes in that quadrant of the jungle on the red team instead of on the blue team.
Yeah. As I was saying, not doing dumb stuff.
Yeah, not doing dumb stuff. This is more what the gameplay is like, right? Like we joke oftentimes about the VCS and the history that we've had looking far more like the game previous, but this is perhaps the best dichotomy of games from time to time. When I first stepped in, this is like the last game is what we were getting all the time, but in the modern era, even some of our lower ranked teams oftentimes are looking like games like this. They're more cold, they're more calculating, they're more focused on making sure that their map is set up. They're not taking these just insane dives over and over again. Like I said, it's like last game was a window to the past for you, Middlecott, so that we can actually explain to you what has been happening to the VCS over the last two years, basically. Ever since they really haven't been at MSI, so much of the league has been able to advance in very different ways from what we've seen. At one point, this was basically just every ounce of possible aggression that could be thrown into opposition gets thrown into them, but it's just not the way of the world anymore. VCS has gone into a very different direction, and this is far more akin to what you see.
Coated stepping up a little bit aggressively in the top side there. 9 minutes on the clock, first blood over to Nogo, and we said that teams players aren't doing stupid things. Coated, yeah. I feel like you didn't need to be there, buddy.
Little bone headed from Coded. It's not even a position where like he was contesting for something. No. He just mispositioned.
Gets flashed onto and turned around. That's so much damage from Blazes and Killer Queen.
And that's map reading, of course, from Ikigai as well, because Yashino is going back to topside to go pushing into Coded to make sure that the wave is going to crash, because he's trying to punish the teleport. And mid lane, I think they're trying to do the same thing so that they could go after the Rift Herald, but neither of those things comes true before Ikigai decides to go poking his nose into the enemy jungle looking for warding or looking for the enemy jungler, because Killer Queen was already there. He had already redeployed onto the map, which is why the return kill comes through, and more importantly, the Rift Herald ends up going over to the side of Luxury. This felt like something that was like, it was like a layup that just got messed up from the side of Team Flash, because it would have been easy enough to reset top, reset mid, bounce back into the jungle with all 3 of these members and take that objective away from themselves. But because Ikigai kind of jumped the clock after this play had come through, that's all that was necessary.
Yeah, Coated, I feel like he just didn't realize that he was stood on a ward there, and once you've got 3 people surrounding you, not really many ways that you can escape out of this one. But I think this is the pick that you were talking about. It's so important that they actually get this down onto Ricky Guy and prevent the possibility of that Herald taking place.
I'm not sure if he was trying to it kind of looked like Killer Queen was in his line of sight for a moment there, and that he like pathed up, and so he thought he was going to go up to his Krugs, and maybe he was going to poke in and just try to get some ounce of vision on like the Raptor camp or something along those lines. But yeah, it's a little questionable decision making from both Coded and Ikigai. Far more punishing though, however, for Ikigai, because again, when he walked in, he obviously gave up the entire top river and gave up the punishment that Yoshino and Nogo could have actually had against their laners after the play had been made, especially with the Rift Herald in the back pocket. That is pretty. It's a pretty good way to start things off.
And I'm really liking this rotation by Killer Queen towards this bot side. Vit and H3 have actually been kind of bullying out Slayer and Artie on this bot side. Look at that tower. That is going to go down as soon as Shelly reaches it. Nogo will respond with a TP though, so Flash do want to opt into this one, but as long as that charge goes through, the tower is still falling, and honestly, that's just a waste of a summoner spell.
Truly, that's a little bit of a strange decision. I do like this if they decided to go for the dragon play, although I feel like the same effect could have been held if Nogo just went to mid lane, pushed out mid, and then all of a sudden you're crashing a wave on top of not having to use the teleport. Or if you have to teleport mid lane, you teleport mid lane and then you push the wave and then they lose a wave if they stay in the river, or they go and they contest again with blazes in the mid lane and all of a sudden it's weaker and maybe you could go re-attack the dragon, something along those lines. But it's just not the case. Team Flash, they find themselves in a very strange position. They give up bottom tower, give up the teleport, and give up the dragon for basically no response. It's quiet. It's not the same kind of mistake that you saw in the previous one, where in the last one it's like, oh, they're diving under 3 towers and giving away 4 kills every minute. But it's a mistake nonetheless. It's a lot more of a macro type mistake from a very young team.
And when you are a very young team, you do tend to sort of make a couple of these mistakes. It just requires one person to go, oh yeah, we need a TP, they're going to dive us, for you to pop that spell, and then all of a sudden Luxury are going, well, actually, no, we're just going to rotate away and take the Drake. And I'm glad that we are seeing this slower pace out of Luxury, because it's really benefiting them. I feel like not just as players, but compositionally as well, right? They are going to scale incredibly hard. Once this Jinx gets towards the 3rd item, it's going to be very difficult for anyone on Flash to actually deal with her. And Luxury have set themselves up for success so far.
They have. They're sitting up about 2k gold, which is much better than in the previous game, where they were basically at a gold deficit for minute 1. It's a lot better for their Victor and for their Jinx, who are trying to scale up into the later stages. Now, in fairness, there's still some scaling and some team fighting to be had from the side of Team Flash, right? Like, Yoshino is on this Gwen, and that champion has shown its ability to team fight. Ikigai on the Hecarim doesn't really fall off the way that other junglers might in those circumstances. Coded finds himself a Rise, and Nogo a little terrified of the one-on-one against the red buff Jace, and so just decides to warp out after delivering some damage. I can respect that decision from Nogo, just not wanting to take the smoke of the one-on-one the way that in the previous game probably would have.
And if you're using that Realm Warp at sort of 25-30 minutes in that fashion, it's pretty rough for you. But there's no big objectives up for a few minutes. By that time, the ultimate will be back off of cooldown for the Rise. So I don't hate it. Just get out of that situation if you don't think that it's going to work out well for you. Turret plate's about to fall off. 10 seconds until that happens. Vit just grabbing the last one there, as maybe it's an overstay that Flash can punish. Ikigai is running in a little bit isolated. Back H3 into the rest of his team, but Vit is untouched. Finally now going to get aggressed onto it. Vit away from the rest of the fight. It's a horrible engage for Team Flash, and it gets turned around. Just a single kill, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, it wasn't actually like Team Flash's decision making right there. Oh, Coded and Nogo, they're going at it. Okay, I think these
no Red Whoop, he can't chase.
Yeah, he can't keep going. He hit easy defensively just a second ago. And that's, it's tragic because, again, seconds ago, I was curious whether or not the Rise was going to be able to take the one-on-one against the Jace with the red buff. And I thought he was going to win it. So Realm Warping away was strange. And you could see right there, he took another winning one-on-one against the Jace, and this time doesn't have the ability to chase. Now, coming back to top side, again, Luxury, they push up through or my apologies, Team Flash pushes up through the river. I didn't mind the prospect of them doing this with the Hecarim. I think it's a powerful champion early, and I think they have champions necessary to do it. They kind of got things stifled really quickly by H3, and the engagement into the Braum didn't end up leading to that much, and it actually put him in a good position where the ultimates led into a really solid combo with the rest of the team. It bought time for Blazes to show up, bought time for Killer Queen to pop off on an ultimate and split up the team correctly, and that meant that Luxury could kind of slow play things and let their Jinx and their Victor get into the fight at their own pace.
And that Jinx, that Victor are starting to get towards their mythic items. That Luden's Tempest grab for Blaze. So the burst damage that this Victor is going to put out is absolutely ridiculous. I imagine we're going to see a mythic completed for Vit soon as well. But yeah, it was a strong attempt to engage, but that flash away into the bush meant that Vit never got focused down.
The other big thing is that, like, Slater and Yoshino were a little bit late on the play, or more specifically, the timing was off between Slater and Yoshino and the rest of the play that was coming through from Ikigai. Again, young players in a couple of different roles. Ikigai's a rookie, Nogo's a rookie, and being able to put together your pieces that quickly is a little bit of a problem. In Team Flash, obviously, they're going to have some growing pains. I feel like that's a play that works decently well if everybody's on the same page and if you time it a little bit better. But again, that timing was punished really well by Luxury with the perfect teleport from Blazes.
Right, now as it stands, 16 minutes in, we've got our third Drake of the game spawning in 45 seconds, but Luxury not too worried about that for now. We'll just grab this Rift Herald, I imagine. We'll rotate that down into the mid lane, use that to get the additional pressure and help them secure the soul point.
Yeah, they've got 30 seconds now.
Actually, diving very aggressively forward. HB is going to be holding the line out in front, and the Hecarim going down. It's another over-aggressive play by Ikigai, and rightfully punished once again by Luxury.
I call this over-aggressive. I agree with you on the terminology, but I just want to clarify something really quick. I love this timer. The timer to jump the play. No, I'm not saying that you're wrong in any case. This was drastically over-aggressive. His team was way out of position, and he shouldn't have been doing this. But if the team is together for this play, I love the timer. The timer looks great because you jump the dragon timer, and you don't get caught on this Rift Herald. But now all of this falls to pieces because he just lost his life. So they give the Rift Herald and the dragon and the mid-turn over, all off the back of just way too aggressive of a play. Again, if they have 5 members there, that's actually a winning situation. And I actually really love the instinct of Ikigai to go for something like that.
But fundamentally, the team wasn't
flawed.
Flawed. It's a great play if, and then as soon as you say if, at that point, my head's just going, bad play. You shouldn't have done that, man. You shouldn't have done that. Well, he's got 100% kill participation at least.
That's got to be the most passive-aggressive way of telling Ikigai that I've ever heard.
What do you mean? He's got 100% of he's got 100% kill participation for Flash.
That's true.
This is for Luxury.
This is the best statistical analysis that could ever be drawn apart.
People talking about the use of stats on League of Legends broadcast. This is the perfect example. RT. Possibly thinking about making a play uncoated, but Yoshino just chilling out in that bush, not being able to follow up.
You see, the problem with Artie's play is that he has 0% kill participation, and so that play was never going to work. Yeah, statistically, true. It doesn't make any sense.
It's been a much calmer affair, Rebel Fox, and I think we needed a little bit of break because that first game was quite chaotic.
Yes, it was. It's also a nice bit of reprieve coming back from Luxury, where like they were over aggressive. They needed a game where they could play a bit more to a strategy that they could actually control more of the pacing. Killer Queen's been able to do a lot more of that in this one without having to push all too much.
Being soloed out on the other side as Artie will get locked down as well. Ikigai's taken low on the other side. Artie will be the first one to fall in just a moment's time. Is that no-go? Double kill for Blazes. And Luxury are going to take those 2 kills and walk it away.
Extremely well played. That's going to be upgrades for Victor. That's gold into the pocket of one of your other scaling champions. And slowly, Blazes climbs into damage range, where like he's going to be able to pop people like you had ascertained earlier. The burst damage from the Ludens and the penetration is going to do quite a bit into a team like this. And this is great control. Look at both sides of this. The control ward, the cheeky control ward dropped right after Slater killed the first one. But you can see how well they're able to close off these very tight spaces. Slater gets shoved out, and then you control it with a gravity well. On the right side, Killer Queen prevents Ikigai from going in. And look at all this space they're kind of pinched into where all this damage gets concentrated from Coded, from Blaze, and from everybody else on the team. It's so much better. This is Luxury. This is the Luxury you're supposed to see.
Oh no, Blaze is possibly caught out in the bot side. Flashes away, but Ikigai is still able to get the charge off in the correct direction. Gwen is doing a fair bit of damage, but Blazes is turning it around as well. Need to be careful watching the cooldowns from this Victor. The Chaos Storm thrown out, and he actually gets a trade kill. Oh, Blaze, that was just disgusting.
No way Blazes actually gets that one to come through. I think There's so many well played to kind of just micro decisions that came out right there. But all things considered, what a play coming out from the likes of Blazes. He's pushed too far up on the bottom side of the map. I don't even know that he's pushed too far up. It's just Iki guy trying to punish him as he's catching the wave in the midst of everything. Still able to turn one around. That's kind of to the benefit of Blazes and the gold that he's got in this game. He's very powerful on this Victor that's been able to pick up a couple of kills and 200 CS to this point in the game, over 2 CS or 10 CS a minute. This is kind of the mark that you're looking for. Luxury, they're not getting punished over aggressively, and the individuals are able to shine a little bit more than what we saw in the previous game, which is rather nice to actually see come out from this team.
Yeah, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's quite difficult for me to like pick out key players from that previous game because it was just so chaotic all the time. But we're seeing the Luxury members really showing their stuff now. Flash, though, still not out of it. RT looking to turn it around, looking to go onto Killer Queen, but they will actually turn it back in their favor. Crescent Guard popped very early into the fight as H3 is tanking up so much damage on the front side as Yoshino, oh dear buddy.
Wow.
Coded just grabbing the solo kill in the bot lane.
Yeah, Coded slowly becoming a raid boss in this side lane. And Yoshino is not going for a super tanky build, doesn't have the Zonius quite yet to be able to defend against the armor. And Nogo decided not to go for the Fimbulwinter, so he's not particularly tanky either. So Coded just dropping damage into either of the solo laners is huge for this team. Now they start up the Baron buff. They're actually forcing the side of Team Flash to make the decision. And Coded has actually showed up. They haven't been able to make that play fast enough. They're going to Realm to look for him.
Yeah, this is a bold chase onto the Jace. They will find him as Slater goes in with the Killer Instinct and picks up the trade kill. So ultimately, you're trading top laners 1-for-1, but Luxury are getting a Baron, and it doesn't seem that they care too much about this dragon spawning in 15 seconds. They just want to take some towers.
They get the inside track on the mid lane, and I know that Yoshino is going to be able to catch them, but it's a Baron buff with a Victor and a Jinx behind it. They're not going to be able to slow this down. Yes, I believe Flash wants to go for the Dragon to slow the stacking down as fast as they can, but if you lose mid inhibitor, I feel like that's far more valuable.
Step way too far forward there, buddy, and going to be the first kill of the fight. RT now forced to flash over the wall. As on the other side, Killer Queen just kills Slater in a bit of a 1v2. Luxury, they split their members all across the map, and Killer Queen finds Artie just chilling in the bush, and it was a slow start of the game for Luxury. It was a rough game one in this series for Luxury, but at 22.5 minutes with the Baron buff on their backs, they are going to pull it back and send us all the way to a game 3.
And this is